Okay. Yeah, keep the sticks rolling. Hey, bitch, I be hot, me and money got tied. She come in steps, but I'm never surprised. I don't know, trust them, they all go for size.
Yes, sir. We're back with another one, and it's good moods all around for us. I think even for our guests, it's a good mood because Bafana qualified. We're speaking in the DMs, and you were saying that he's very happy about that. Mikko, how are you doing, sir?
I'm very well. How are you guys doing?
We can't complain. Big dog, are you
Good.
good?
I'm good, my guy. I'm good. Having a chilled past 2 days. I've been chilled. I've been off work, so I've been relaxing a bit. So I'm quite good. Quite good. No complaints from my side. How are you doing?
I've been good too, bro. I mean, I think it was a Tuesday, yeah. Slept very nicely on Tuesday after that result that we had. Finally going to the World Cup. Finally, after
Dog.
15 years of pain.
Feel like we've been struggling to qualify for this tournament. It's something that we've been struggling to do. Like I remember, I think the last one we qualified for was 2002 in Korea, right? That was a Japan
Yeah.
one. I think that's the last time we qualified properly. Besides the 2010 World Cup, which we obviously now we qualified as host. But now it's good to actually like get good results in and actually deserve to be there instead of just qualifying due to hosting a tournament. So I'm quite excited for the team and I'm happy for the players, Fit, because if you check even our squad, most of those players that have been used in the squad are players that are playing the PSL. So I'm quite happy for them and I'm proud of them, dog.
Yeah. I'm also very proud of them. It was a good advert for our league. So I'm very proud of the boys. Like you said, locally based squad. I don't know whether Nico you kept tabs on our game, but we won 3-0 against Rwanda. Very comfortable win, and we're flying to America next year. Flying to America next year.
First of all, let me just say massive congratulations to you and all the South African. As you might know, my wife and two of my sons are South African. All my sons are dual citizens. They are also South African citizens and Finnish citizens. And so it was a big thing also in our family. 2010, during the World Cup, actually we moved out of South Africa during the World Cup, during the actual World Cup in
Wow.
2020. It was just the timing of it all and that. So, but I remember that very well. I was living in Cape Town. We were living there for the whole entire preparation, the stadium building, everything, all of those things, and it was a special time at the time. But I was watching the match against Rwanda. I didn't quite see the full match against Zimbabwe. It wasn't as good match either way. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm following Bafana for sure. I'm following them as much as I can, and I also follow Orlando Pirates. That's my team away from my team. So I do watch. I certainly try to watch the African Champions League, those matches, and I know it's more of a new thing, but I quite enjoy it. I mean, the stadiums don't exactly look full in those matches, but it's a nice
Yeah.
competition. I like kind of international competitions like that, and I've been trying to watch them. It's just a team that I kind of like came across first when I originally came to South Africa in the early 2000s. So it's my team away from my main team. I think it's allowed considering that they are so far
Yeah.
apart and in such a different
Yeah.
context. But and what has happened now is that I'm very happy also because Bafana is in the World Cup. My own national team Finland is not getting there, nowhere close, and it's very difficult to qualify from Europe. You always have to play against one of the top countries in the world. So we had the Netherlands and Poland. Poland was the other one, and we managed to win them once. But in a long run, they are much better team than we are. I was at the stadium last week watching Lithuania. Finland won that, but it was not that important match. But nevertheless, it was a nice thing to witness. It's always nice to watch football also at the stadium.
Yes. I
Mikko,
stand to
just
be.
quickly, while we're still on international football, right? Quickly, but just about Finland, like, do you ever like see any like type of improvement or like is like the Finnish football governing body doing anything to like try and raise the standards or at least like develop Finland to become like one of the, I'm not say best, teams in Europe, but one of the teams that can actually like compete in the tournaments. You see, for example, like you get Iceland, who are actually doing quite well in tournaments as well. Or do you think it's just like maybe the luck of the draw?
Iceland is actually the country that they kind of ruined my theory, because otherwise I could say that we are a small country in the north and we don't have like half of the year. We don't really have. It's not easy to play outside, and there's snow and
Yeah,
there's the circumstance. But then you have a smaller country in more north, Iceland, and they're doing quite well. So that ruins the theory and the excuse that otherwise I would have. I think that our under 21s were in the Euros last summer. They didn't do particularly well, but in the qualifications they were okay. I think there's a better generation coming, but at the moment I think it's safe to say that, and I keep on saying this, that our national team is much better than the sum of its parts. It plays much better in actual fact than what it looks on paper, but it's just that we don't have the player material. We don't have the kind of,
yeah,
our players are playing in like Poland and Czech Republic and maybe at Greece, and we only have one player who is playing in the top leagues in the world, and that's our goalkeeper, who is now even injured, our captain Lukas Hradecky, who was at Bayer Leverkusen, now in Monaco. He moved to Monaco this time. But other than that, it's very slim pickings, and if you look at other countries nearby, like reference countries like Sweden, they've got players
yeah.
from all sorts of top teams in the world, all different leagues, all kinds of things, and even they're not doing particularly well. But you see the kind of reference point, and we just don't have that.
Yeah.
It's a bit. I like the fact that you're actually saying that. Good, well done for Bafana for winning largely with the local players, and I think that's one of the challenges for South Africa is always that the South African league is so competitive in Africa, not necessarily like globally, internationally,
Yeah.
not necessarily, but the thing is that I think that it's always that question for the South African players, that do you want to be like a rock star in Johannesburg or somewhere like that, live like a very nice life, or do you want to go to like Belgian second,
Yeah.
tier to play and play in a mud and practice in a European rain. So I kind of see it, but then you kind of have to also you have to play where the standard is set, and for
Yeah.
our national team we don't have those. There used to be quite a
Yeah,
lot of South African players in the French league actually. A couple of years ago there were quite a few of them, but I don't
Yeah.
think if there's any of them left now.
I stand
Because
to
I
be
think the
corrected,
last
Nico.
one, the last one was
Over to
Motiba, who was playing for Strasbourg.
Yeah,
He was
and
the
before
last
that he
one.
was at Lille and yeah,
Mm.
and what's the his name escapes me now. But there's been they were I think there were like 2-3 players, South African
Keegan
players
Dolly
who
was at
yes.
Montpellier.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So there were few
yeah.
players,
I stand to be
and
corrected,
now
Nico,
I think
but I
there's just the
think your most famous
Zimbabwean
player is
Marshall Monetti is playing
Litmanen, right? Am I
Although
correct to say so?
I think
From
he
Finland?
actually moved away also, but he was
Yeah,
playing I
Yuri
think still
Litmanen.
maybe last season, but he might be
Yeah.
not from South Africa.
Yeah,
I don't think anymore.
yeah, yeah. Very, very, very good player. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Ballon d'Or
So
top
I
three,
think by now,
1990 whatever, I can't remember. 95 Champions League winner Ajax. Yeah, king. We are republic, but we do have one king. Yeah. And Sami Hyypiä was in Liverpool captain, and Mikael Forssell was doing pretty well. He was a Chelsea player, but he was scoring loads of goals for Birmingham City. I used to live in Birmingham at the time.
Yeah.
That was coincidence. Then there's been some great goalkeepers, players like that. But more recently,
Yes,
Teemu
I
Pukki was having a nice time in Norwich for a few seasons. But he's also now an aged
yeah,
substitute
I was gonna
for
say
the national
before you
team
spoke, Nico, by
and that.
now,
So but
since we had last
there's also
episode,
a
and also
changing of generation.
the jersey
But
that you're wearing now,
Yeah.
people
yeah,
can see
you have
that
to be
you're a
realistic
Parisian,
with
a
the players
PSG
you have.
fan in Finland. So we would like to congratulate you and PSG for winning the Champions League. So, and just for last season. So I think we'll actually start there, a conversation there as to what were the feelings around the 2024 2025 season, because you won the league, obviously, you won the domestic cup, the Champions League, the Ballon d'Or trophy as well, came back to Paris. And then obviously the only dent in that season was the Club World Cup. But like, let's start with obviously the Champions League was your. I know you don't like targets, but that was your main one last season, your main trophy last season. So just run us back through that campaign and how you felt maybe towards the latter stages of it, and also when you won the final.
It's a funny thing, that one, because life, like everything is so intense. There's so much football, and these things are happening all the time. They're changing all the time. But if you go 1 year, if you go back in time 1 year, just 1 year, even if you go into the Christmas New Year time, I would not have guessed. Like I would not have guessed that we can go all the way. It did not look like that. We had a very good
Yeah.
team. It's a very good project. We have a good players, but it was just the challenge was that the goals were not forthcoming. Like there was a lot of good. There's a lot of good football being played, but the goals just didn't happen, and it all had kind of started from the semi-finals of the Champions League the year before against Borussia Dortmund, where we hit like the woodwork however many times, but I think it must have been some kind of a record. It was just ridiculous, like amount of times, and it was just that kind of thing continued quite long way until pretty much the whole autumn. I mean, in the Champions League, it was not looking very good and promising. I think that the kind of there's a kind of consensus that the turning point was against Manchester City at Parc des Princes at home. Manchester City went to 2-0. They were leading. There were goals by Holland scored one, and then his very famous player. His name escapes me now. Went to Everton. Jack Grealish. So
Jack Grealish.
yeah, just praying forgot the name. They scored two goals, and it was looking really off. It was looking really bad. But then at the end of the day, we managed to beat them 4-2 in that match, and then that was the time when it started to look like, okay, something really could happen. But even before that, they had the turning point, the real turning point. I think that when you're looking back with hindsight, you can say that the match against Arsenal was during the league phase. Ousmane Dembele was not injured. He was not suspended, but he did not travel. And there had been some. I don't actually quite know what it was, but there was some kind of a. I think it was essentially some kind of a situation where Luis Enrique just had to put his foot down, because what you need to understand also is PSG has always, during this modern era of PSG, this what we call QSI era with these owners, current owners, the challenge has always been player power. They hire very big star players, and then those star players are telling the coaches how to play, and the coaches have very little power. So it was a kind of a big statement from Luis Enrique to leave Ousmane Dembele home, was like the best paid player of the team, the star player, the number 10, and to say that, listen, and that was the turning point, because I think that without that match, there is no Ballon d'Or for Dembele. It was after that match that he became the play. He assumed. I think the penny dropped, and something happened, and he really became that guy who then has been the best player in the world since. I would say, although it's a team sport anyway. I think that there's a lot. You can also overemphasize Dembele a little bit. He's had an amazing time, amazing season. I want to take nothing away from him, but at the same time, so has the whole team. And this has been the trick, has been that it has been a team sport. So then things just started clicking. The Liverpool match, Liverpool, like the two matches, very tight. Liverpool was very, 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 very tough opponent, but at the end we managed to beat them. And I'm biased, but I would say deservedly so. I mean, I think that they were
Yeah.
the toughest opponent in the whole run, but so was
Liverpool.
Aston Villa. Was very tough. They were playing very well, and I was really, really happy. Like I don't really have a strong relationship with Aston Villa, but I used to live right next to their stadium, Villa Park,
Okay.
when I was studying in Birmingham for 4 years. So my university was very nearby. So I kind of like went past that. So it was it's my old neighborhood, so to speak. But I don't really have a particular relationship with Aston Villa, despite any of that. I support PSG at that. so that, and then what it was Arsenal, yeah, and then the final. I think that it was just the time was right and everything clicked, and it was just there was nothing like you can never be sure, but I think that it just felt like everything was clicking. The team was playing, and I would say that one of the things that's not mentioned so often, but maybe the most important thing, is that we were very incredibly lucky with the lack of injuries. And that's something that cannot be overemphasized, because the truth is that you can have a really great team, but then the injuries come and then they ruin the season. It's worth remembering that for PSG, the last time that we were in the Champions League final, it was the Corona year, so it was a little bit of a special season. But at the same time, it was the only time that Neymar was not injured. He was in PSG for, was it 6 or 7 seasons, and that was the one spring. And it was partially because it was such a different season, so he hadn't really had time to get injured. But it was the only time that he was not injured, and that was the time that we also went to the Champions League final. So I mean, I'm not saying like I know exactly what it takes to win Champions League just because my team won it one time out of however many tries, but what I think is clear is that you need a lot of luck. You need a lot of luck. Things just need to click. You can be the best team, but if the luck is not on your side, it is what it is. So I think that it's always worth saying that that PSG was also very lucky. I would say that we were an amazing team. I would say that it's my opinion that
Yeah,
we were the
Mikko,
best
just
team
before,
and
sorry, Louis, just before you
last
speak,
season
I
in the
was going
world.
to
Certainly
say, as
last
far
spring, let's
as
say last spring rather.
final final
But
matches and
also
displays
luck
go,
is
I
the final
think that was
ingredient, and
one
you
of the
need
most
that.
dominant displays we've seen
Yeah.
since Barcelona versus Man United, when they played us off the park. And I think you played. It hurt me because Louis knows I'm an Inter Milan fan as well. But yeah, that was like from the first minute to the last minute, it was PSG's game. So congratulations to PSG. Louis, over to you, bro.
Yeah, I was about to say, start going back to the league phase where Arsenal, we played against PSG. We beat them, I think it was 2-0 with Mikel Merino scoring a header. I remember Dembele wasn't playing that match. So I'm going to where what you were saying, Miko, that do you think, obviously you said that was a turning point for Dembele, but also the fact that, do you think you also recognize that he might be maybe the biggest star currently at the club, in terms of like status and clubs that he's played for, and the expectations that was brought on to him when signing from Barcelona to PSG? Because if you can check, Mbappe wasn't there. There was no Neymar. There was no Messi. So literally, PSG had no superstar, if I can say. So do you think it was a case of like Dembele, like, watch, man, like you're the it guy? Yeah, football is a team sport, but then every single team has that one main guy or the face of the team. So do you think maybe they could have told him, hey, you need to pull up your socks. The team is looking up to you. We have so many youngsters in this team. You're one of the most experienced players in this team. So you need to take also that you might not wear the armband, but you need to step up as an experienced player and also take up some type of leadership role to the young players that are in the team.
Absolutely, I think so, and I think that sort of the conventional wisdom of last season is that the team was the star. But it's true that he's the number 10. He's come in with a certain type of profile. There's a certain type of expectation that we're on his shoulders, and he's also in that very 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 young team. Setting aside some players like Marquinhos and that he was really like one of the more seasoned players there, who
Yeah.
certainly from the ones who were actively playing. And of course, there was somebody like Presnel Kimpembe was there on the bench, and
Yeah.
sort of he's also an important leadership role. It's a very different kind of a profile that he has, even when he's not playing. But I think that Dembele, I think that like I said, something clicks it there. Something, I think that he kind of clocked that, and it, like, I was watching Kylian Mbappe there, sort of like walking around the pitch for 7 years, and then doing these moments of magic, and it's undeniable how incredibly good player he is, and that, but he does not work hard. He does not defend.
Yeah.
He doesn't expect to be told what to do. He's very much he feels like it, well, it strikes me. I'm like, what do I know? I can't put words in his mouth or feelings into his head. But he certainly seems to behave like that. That he's kind of above the teamwork. And then when you had Messi, also it was just chaos because if you have two players when it's not like defending or pressing or whatever, it doesn't work. And the whole thing about this season was that we had an incredibly strong defense, and I think one of the real unsung heroes of this project, for the Champions League winning project, was Milan Pacho, was just phenomenal. No fireworks, nothing crazy, just incredible center back, really great defender, but really the pressing and the high press was exemplary, and I think that in that Ousmane Dembele was leading by his example and the way, there's like those memes and we see those videos where he's just sort of like looking at the goalkeeper when the goalkeeper is about to give the goal kick, and he's just sort of like a shark. He's like fully focused, and he's ready to put the pressure on that, and those are kind of the images that we saw, and they're the images that we remember, but it certainly is one of those just like great memories of that season, and something to remember, something to consider. He really was leading by example. I think that was his leadership role. And then what happened, and this is what everybody has been saying about him all the time, that if he just manages to start scoring goals, he's going to be one of the best players. And then when he just like got his finishing more clinical, the goals just kept on coming, and he did all of those things that he did, and I think that I don't really like Ballon d'Or very much. I think it's kind of ruined a lot of the things. I think that it's a kind of a negative impact. I think that the Messi Ronaldo era kind of compromised a little bit the whole integrity, and it kind of became like a different type of popularity competition. And I'm not even taking anything away from those players. I don't really care for them very much, for different reasons, but nevertheless, they're great players. But that era between the two of them just sort of like ruined quite a lot, and they've been desperately trying to get back into this, like Mbappe, Haaland, but now Mbappe and Haaland are not really even in a competition. Now Lamine Yamal, but okay, he's a great player, he's a young guy, and I wish him the best of luck. But I don't know if he's gonna. He seems to like the party. There seems to be like a little bit of a threat that he could go the way of Neymar, or I don't know. But also, it's unnatural for a teenager to have that much power and that much money. But that's much adoration and just sort of like being able to do. I don't know if that's a good thing. For his future, but I wish him the best. I don't necessarily want to him in my team in any way, not because he's not a great player, but I just don't think that is necessarily the spirit that is ideal right now. But he certainly it's a
Mikko,
conversation, because
think,
it's like
the
talking points are around him and so on and so forth. But I think that it feels to me like this is kind of like
when you're speaking,
the inheritance of
3 points to
Messi
pick on. I'll be quick.
Cristiano
The Kylian
Ronaldo
Mbappe
era
one. Obviously, we knew Kylian Mbappe in PSG's time that he was a prima donna. I think everyone knew that he wanted the team to play for him. Even to a certain degree, the French team as well, where it seems as if he's not playing in his main role, then he won't come to the party, right? At Madrid, it's much better now because at Madrid, obviously, the institution is much bigger than him, so he doesn't have those amenities and basically those shots to call. So that's the first point. And then my second point is the Ballon d'Or win that Kylian Mbappe had, right? Do you think? Sorry, not Kylian Mbappe, but Ousmane Dembele. It almost felt as if it was a win for the team as well. As much as it's, like you said, it's an individual award, but I think this Ballon d'Or represented that this was a PSG win. It was a win for the PSG president. It was the win for the PSG as a city and for the ultras as well. Did you feel that? Because it almost feels almost sweeter that he won it as opposed to maybe, let's say, if Messi won it at PSG or Mbappe won it at PSG or if Neymar won it at PSG.
Absolutely, yeah. It felt much more shared experience, and it's a bittersweet in that sense that of course Hakimi would have also been very much deserving of that. Vitinha would have been deserving of that. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that Nuno Mendes was like 10th. I mean, have you seen this guy playing football? Like he's like who is like he's just amazing football player for club and country, and he's won pretty much everything there is to be won and whatever, and yet he's like behind a lot of players. But this is exactly now we arrived at this point of what is the problem with Ballon d'Or. It's like that's not how football is. Football is not like individual players. It's about team sport, and I agree that I think that there was certainly a feel of Dembele winning that it was part of the collective. I mean, technically, Messi won the Ballon d'Or for the season that he had been in Paris. Of course, he won it because of the World Cup win. I don't think he didn't even thank PSG in his thank you speech. I don't think that you would be hard pressed to find a PSG supporter who doesn't dislike him very much, and not because he's not a legend of the game, but it's just because we were watching him like not caring about us for 2 years and not being very sort of like not being very involved. So it was a mistake. That was a mistake, but that didn't move anybody. Like as I don't know any PSG supporter who felt like that was in any way noteworthy that Messi won that Ballon d'Or for the season that he was playing for us also, because also we know that he won that purely for that World Cup, and he was kind of like there's an argument to be made that he was using PSG to get there because Barcelona had made a mess of their finances, so he couldn't really was unable to continue there, and then he had to come there, and it was a kind of a marketing thing and all of those things, but it never worked. It was a mistake always, but with Dembele, yeah, and he's a French guy, and it was like a big thing. Like I don't know if you know DJ Snake, who is like one of the musician who's like a huge PSG supporter, and he kind of yeah, he launched that chant, and it just took over, and it was even heard in the award ceremony itself. So it was really special. I like I said, I don't for my money you could just abolish the whole Ballon d'Or. I don't really necessarily like that. I don't
Yeah.
really necessarily my football experience doesn't require that at all. I think
Yeah.
if anything it takes away from it, but since it is there, at least he won it. That's justice. That's fair. I
Yeah.
think that's all good.
Yeah, sorry about that. We
I,
had the
I
same
also want to
issue.
give a shout out to another player who I feel like he was a superhero for PSG in the Champions League campaign. Donnarumma, the keeper. For me personally, I'm not a big fan of his. I don't rate him that highly. But then again, with that being said, we have to give credit where it's due. He was a great role in the back line in last season, especially in the semifinals where we played against you guys, home and away, where I feel like we should have scored at least maybe 4 goals in both legs, like two for each, at least two goals per fixture or per leg. Donnarumma was brilliant in that season, and for me, like you get your Neuers, who I feel like Neuer should be a Ballon d'Or winner. I think just purely based off that season, if it wasn't Usman Dembele or your Hakimis, your Vitinhas, I feel like Donnarumma could have been at least maybe in the top three of the Ballon d'Or. But my point is not the Ballon d'Or, but my point is the performances from Donnarumma, how great they were, and how much did you guys rate him in the fan base of the PSG fan base? Because I think he has a part to play in you guys winning the Champions League as well.
100%. He's absolutely a key player, and he will always be thought of as the goalkeeper who played the very very key, very pivotal role for us to win that Champions League for the first time. So certainly there's that, and I think that. Donnarumma comes with his strengths. His strengths are ridiculous. Like his strengths
Yeah.
are really like top world class. Then he comes with his limitations also. He's not very good with his feet, the ball delivery is, but what he learned a lot is that he made far fewer mistakes. Certainly during the springtime, he was very, very strong. So you can kind of like you never know which Donnarumma you have. Will you have the one who won the Euros for the Italy and the Champions League for PSG? You want that Donnarumma, but then you can also get the one from the last autumn who was kind of letting sort of like
Yeah.
relatively easy goals against Arsenal, against PSV,
Yeah.
against Atletico, even in domestically in France. Now I've always kind of like looked at him. I think I've been looking at him fairly sort of realistically that he has got these strengths and his strengths are really strong. And then he got these weaknesses and it depends on a day, but he can really let in an easy goal, but then he can just go on and what he did, it was really brilliant. Very much so. I think that the reason why he's no longer a PSG player was maybe more complicated. It had more to do with the salary structure of the team and the kind of contracts that are being made these days by our sporting director, which have got a strong the payment card, the salary got a strong connection of how much you play. So basically, there's no longer that kind of a Neymar thing that he's being paid like ridiculous amounts even if he's missing half a season. So there's a basic level, and then the bonuses are based on the large chunk of the salary is based on also on your appearances and things like that. So I'm not these things, you can never know these things 100%. I mean, we never get to see the contract papers. We don't know, but this is what they're talking about. This is basically what there seems to be a certain amount of understanding. And it was said that, and I also don't know if this is true, but it was said that Donnarumma was not keen on that, or rather his manager was not very keen on that. And you remember that Donnarumma also came to PSG. I mean, the AC Milan supporters didn't exactly they didn't like the way
Yeah.
he left their club, and it was essentially the club of his heart, as they say in French. It was his sort of boyhood club, his club. It was AC Milan, where he was coming from. So he left like that, and it is what it is. I hold nothing against him. I'm very excited to have Lucas Chevalier. A lot of the people, especially now, he's played in a few controversial calls that people think that he should not have. Of course, he shouldn't have. I mean, should goalkeepers concede any goals? Ideally not, but
Yeah.
he certainly conceded a few goals that maybe he should have caught. And a lot of people, even PSG supporters, are kind of like doubting him. But these are the same people. I remember them doubting last year. They were doubting Desiree Douet early on, then they were doubting Bacola, and they've been doubting everybody. And the same people who are now saying that, oh, we should not have sold Donnarumma were the same people who were basically saying that we must just get rid of him like 1 year ago, last autumn, when all of those things were happening. So the memory is short for people, and that I think that whoever they decide to go with, I'm sort of old enough, I don't really get in emotionally entangled too much with these things, because controversially, my opinion is not being asked. The sporting director doesn't give me a call, so I've got no power over those things anyways. I'll just take whatever comes. But at the moment, we have good people who are making these choices, and it's easy to live with the choices that they make. I'm very happy to see Lucas Chevalier. Yeah, there's been some rocky start, but it's also a lot of pressure to come in. Young French keeper coming to the Champions League winning side, coming to Paris, having all eyes on you, and whatever happens, it like people are going to have a lot of extra attention on you. So I'm perfectly happy with that, and at the same time, I have nothing but respect and love for Gigio Donnarumma, who spent good couple of seasons with us, and the most important thing, he was one of the really key characters to bring that trophy, the Champions League trophy, to Paris. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. Mikko, I guess if it's a dent, I don't think Parisians and yourself really see the loss against Chelsea in the Club World Cup final as really something that you can cry about, because of the season that you had, and also because of how gruesome and lengthy the season was. But if you had to sum that like tournament, Club World Cup, and that final loss up, what would you say in not too long of words?
It was one of those things that it was a very exhausting experience. Also for us supporters, we were not even running there on the pitch in the midday heat of the very hot days of in North America, Los Angeles, and otherwise. But what was really happening there is that our players were coming pretty much directly from the Champions League final. Many of our key players went to either Portuguese national team, Spanish national team, French national team. We didn't have anybody in the German national team, but nevertheless, in 3 out of the 4 teams that were in the Nations League Final Four, and they played very intense couple of matches there. Our key players, especially the Portuguese, which we have many, there were key players in both the finals, and those finals were week apart. They were in the same stadium in München also, but they were essentially, the team was spent. They were exhausted when they went to America. Then you have like this new tournament, and it was a very cynical tournament. I don't know how it's going to be looked at in the years to come, but it was a very cynical tournament, of course, because it was all about money. Then like Chelsea was there, but then you didn't have like Liverpool there or whatever. And I understand the reason why the teams were selected, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really like the best teams of the moment. But the reasons were like we're a little bit maybe different ones. The matches were played so that they would be shown in our time zones, which we more or less share the time zones in Europe and Africa. That for us they were kind of like nice evening matches, but that meant that in the North America there they had played in a summer heat, in the midday heat, very exhausted matches. PSG was playing against Atletico. Botafogo is the champion of the South American champions. There was some of those MLS teams. Then there was a Bayern, and there was a Real Madrid and stuff like that. It was a quite intense thing. So even leading up to that final, there was nothing like when you were watching. They had nothing but like this winning mentality, but there was nothing in their legs. Then they were playing against the Bayern Munich with the 2 red cards because players were just tired, exhausted. So when they got into the final, I think that you could say that that Chelsea certainly went there with the better mentality, and maybe PSG thought that after all of that it could have been maybe easier, which it wasn't. But at the end of the day, there was like it was too much football is too much football, and I keep on saying this, that what we have to accept is that we can't have both quantity and quality of football. If we want to have this much football, then we have to accept that players are not gonna be at their peak of their powers the whole time. And what is happening also now is that we are having the tons and tons of injuries now. Actually, the players start coming back bit by bit. Ousmane Dembele and Joao Neves are still like the last players I think who are. But I think that Desiree Doué should be playing this week when we are returning back to club football, and also Barcola and few others who have been injured. I think Marquinhos might still be injured still. So there are still injuries, but I think that it's because of the last summer. We didn't have any preseason. So that's why when you watch Super Cup against Tottenham, which was just a terrible match of football, like a horrendous match of football, they hadn't had a preseason. So I think we were playing even the first Champions League matches. I think we were kind of like done with the preseason matches. That by then, in a manner of speaking, that it was just like that. And I expect this season, those teams who were not in the Club World Cup, I expect them to have a huge advantage. I expect clubs, especially like Barcelona, even though we beat them in the Champions League now, I expect them in long run. Barcelona, Liverpool, they have good teams. They have had a summer holiday. They have had a full preseason. Whatever, I expect them to have a huge advantage. And this is a very long season. Then you're gonna have African Cup of Nations. We have Ashraf Hakimi is the only player from us who's going there. But that and then going into the World Cup in the next summer. So I don't know what's going to happen this season. It's very difficult to say. I think that the team is very good still. It depends on these injuries. It depends on everything. It depends on so many different things. Like I said before, there's a lot of luck that is involved when it comes to these things.
Yeah. Louis, you got a question, bro?
Yeah. I just want to. I have 2 questions. They're all about like your results in the league. I'm looking at your league results. You guys have done pretty well. You barely concede any goals, but there's only two results that actually stand out for me. Obviously, the loss in the Le Classique, that one stands out, and then also your 6-3 win against Toulouse. I want to know like what was going on in the match against Toulouse that you guys conceded 3-0, three goals to them. Even though you won 6-3, but we don't expect PSG to concede 3 goals to Toulouse, even though they were playing at home. What was going on in that match? And secondly, your thoughts on the Le Classique match and the match being scheduled on the same time, same day as the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, let me start off with Toulouse, and I must say that this is now a while ago. I don't remember exactly how that match went. What were the ins and outs of that? But it's a very typical Ligue 1 experience. You could say that in that these Ligue 1 teams, the clubs, they usually. I think that Ligue 1 deserves much better reputation than what it has, because the future, the stars of tomorrow are all coming from these clubs. The amount of talent that comes from there. So we've been watching these players like I remember when Kamavinga was bossing the midfield against PSG at 16-year-old when he was playing for
16.
Rennes. I remember all these players who are like these top players. I remember them coming from and seeing them like years and years and years before. Even now when Ryan Cherki went to Manchester City, it's like, well, we've been watching him play like since forever. Like he's been playing, and my point is that he's a very talented guy, but he hasn't really been. I don't think that's been really improving that much since he was 16. But that's a separate matter. Yeah. So this can happen very easily. I think in Ligue 1 is that the counterattacks are lethal. A lot of the teams are parking the bus. They're very low block and the defense, and then if you're not paying attention, it can really happen. Accidents can happen, and sometimes the momentum, the other players the other team gets the momentum, and things can happen, and so on and so forth. So I don't think it's that. I think that this is a big misconception. People are thinking, oh, Ligue 1 is very easy for PSG. It happens, of course, that with the kind of quality of the squad that PSG has, in the long run, the results tend to be pretty good, and that. But in individual matches, it's hardly ever easy. It's most of the matches are hard fought. They're not that easy as people think that they are. When we don't go and roll over everybody. And you have to also remember that every team, every player who plays against us, that's one of the biggest matches of the season. That's the match that that has the most eyes on it. That's the match where they can make their whole career, by playing very well in that. They can get a contract, they can do very well. So I think that that like always when teams are playing against PSG in France, it's almost like a cup final every time. And that's great. But people think that it's very easy, but it's not. It's almost never easy. It's almost never easy. These are very good teams, and they also know from years of experience. They know how to play against us. Like, if not to get further more to that Chelsea match, but Chelsea kind of like knew how to counter that thing, especially with those very, very exhausted, tired players, and they manage that well. Also in Ligue 1, they know that. They also have the kind of like an idea of how they can counter that. It doesn't always necessarily work, but they have an idea of how to do that. When it comes to Le Classique, I think that it was a farcical event, because the storms and the flooding and things like that. PSG first traveled there on Sunday of that week, one day before the Ballon d'Or. Then the match was postponed and cancelled. We were missing half of our squad anyway. It's very bizarre how Marseille has been unable to beat us very much in such a long time. They got few here and there, but not a lot. And at the and then also at the own stadium in league, they have really not beaten us in a very long time. So for them, it was like a huge match for them, but. For PSG, it was a kind of like a working accident. They had to travel there again the next day in a new time. They can't really stay overnight there, because it's not really like it's not something that the PSG can spend over the night in Marseille, because the disturbances that would be there, the fireworks, the things like that. It's just like PSG fans are not allowed to travel to Marseille, just like Marseille fans are not allowed to travel to Paris and for these matches and so on. So this is just something that happens, and and it was at the same time with the Ballon d'Or, which I think was, again, I told you my feelings about Ballon d'Or, but at the same time, these players had deserved that evening. Whether you like Ballon d'Or or not, but this team had deserved that night for them,
Yeah.
as a celebration. And I don't know what would have happened if Dembele would not have been injured. If Dembele would not have been injured, then I guess he would have had to just not go and pick his Ballon d'Or. So I think that it was a kind of, in my opinion, it was a little bit of a failure from the French football. But at the same time, I think that there were technicalities, and Marseille was saying they're going to sue if the match is not being played there and then. So it's a kind of it's a very, it is what it is. These are rivalries. I don't think of them very fondly. They don't think of PSG very fondly. The cities have lot of different, it's not my turf war as such, but at the same time, I don't really care for very much about Marseille. I don't like the way they do things. I don't like the type of thing that it's almost like a they just recruit players like a Greenwood who's a rapist and so on and so forth. So I don't really appreciate things like that. But that's what they do. So I don't really, I don't think I would never want for PSG to be defeated by Marseille, but it happened, and at the same night, Ousmane Dembele won Ballon d'Or at the same night. PSG was awarded as the best team of the season in the same event, and so on and so forth. So, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, I think Miko. We just before we wrap it up, I think. Well, let me say, I think just this week, SuperSport announced that they have secured the rights to actually broadcast the French league, and I think it helps the African fan as well a lot. I know Louis is very happy. I'm very happy because we like watching other leagues because it's a different culture of football and another way to see football as well. So I liked it a lot. Now we can see not so much PSG because we see PSG in the Champions League stage, winning Champions Leagues. We can see a Strasbourg, who are a very young team. We can see a Lyon. We can see a Marseille. We can see a Lille. We can see a Monaco with Pogba. And then we can see like a Brest and a Lens, So I think it bodes well. But also, like you said, Nico, you think the French league needs more respect. And we have been saying that. I mean, the biggest exports are coming from, or imports are coming from the French league all over. You can check France, you can check in the Spanish league, Italian league, definitely in the Premier League as well. So I think it deserves more respect. And I wouldn't say we're not going to call it the best league, but it's definitely up there with the best leagues. Louis, what about you? What do you think? What are your thoughts, bro?
Now, like for me, I'm just happy that SuperSport finally got the rights to broadcast League One again, because I remember back in the day they used to show actually Ligue 1, and that's how I got to follow Olympique Lyon when they still had Benzema, your Johan Kokov, your who's this guy Juninho. So that's how I got to love and fall in love with Olympique Lyon, and I'm just happy that I'll get to watch them once again in the league, even though they're not doing really well. They haven't been the same, but then the love is still there for the team. And just quickly, Mikko, two questions, right? Any PSG academy players we should know of, like that are on the brink of making it to the first team? And secondly, how's the women's team doing?
The women's team.
Yeah.
They are, as we speak, they are about to start a Champions League match against Real Madrid in a couple of minutes. I will start watching that when we're done
Yeah.
here. But it's not. We're not in a rush. I'm not saying it because of that. But the women's team are not doing particularly well. I think that's one of the kind of the resources haven't been put in there. The right people are not leading that project. We keep on leaking the top best players to the rivals, which is very frustrating. I follow them very closely, and it's not as uplifting story as the men's side have have been certainly this last season and even up
Yeah.
till now. So there are great players there also, but I think that it's a little bit too much of an afterthought. And that's the
Yeah.
problem because we are coming from being like the Champions League finalists, semi-finalists up there in the top two, top three, top four teams in Europe. Right now, it's just not there, and things haven't been clicking, and there's been a lot of drama and that. So that's an unfortunate side of it, and I hope that things will change a little bit in future. There's some good players. There's some very kind of big profiles like Mary Earps, from the England goalkeeper, and
Yeah.
Crystal Dunn came from USA, and although she hasn't really been playing very much, and there are some great players also from all over still, Sakina Kashwai and Krichbok, and a lot of players like that, but it hasn't been clicking. I hope that tonight there's going to be a little bit of a turnaround for that. When it comes to academy players, yeah, okay, Seni Mayulu scored against, not just against Barcelona, but of course in the Champions League final, and he had scored already before. He's quite a young player, but I think he's certainly a very interesting player, an interesting profile, and I hope to see something quite. I hope to see more of him, and I think this Luis Enrique has been doing very well in giving this young players playing time. Then I would also say that Ibrahim Baye is another name that is coming through. There are also a few more of these young players who've been getting playing times. Also, Noam Kamara was just now in the. Was it the World Championship World Cup? Was it under 21 or 20s? What, I can't remember exactly what
Under 21, 20.
Yeah. Well, they were just kicked out, but he was playing there fairly well, and that. So there's a steady flow of those players that are coming through all the time, and I think that there are some players who never really got the proper chance from our academy. Kingsley Coleman, good example. Mike Magnan, good example. These are all Titi Parisian. These are academic graduate. Christopher Nkunku, Moussa Diaby, who now even plays in Saudi Arabia, but he was so I really enjoyed him a lot.
Mbappe's brother.
What's that?
Mbappe's brother.
Yeah.
Ethan Mbappe.
Yeah, not too bad.
I know he scored a goal against us, and it was a nice goal. But in all fairness, I think that, and he seems like a nice guy, and he genuinely likes Paris, and he's an academic graduate, and he didn't celebrate. He kind of refused to celebrate when he scored a goal against us. But in all fairness, without his last name, I don't think that he would have necessarily played one match.
His brother was celebrating more, actually.
Well, imagine how does it feel when your club's all-time top scorer is celebrating the goal against you. I understand why he was doing it. It was his little brother, of course. I understand, blood is thicker and water and so on and so forth. But I mean, it's not great. But I hope that he's going to have a great career, and I hope he's going to be a great player. But genuinely, his level when he was in Paris, his level was not very close to, like when you compare to players like Warren Zaire-Emery and these types of things when they were and I know that Warren Zaire-Emery has had a little bit of a tough go at the recent times. I was just actually, this is a gossip stuff, but I heard because he was going out with one of the goalkeeper of the women's team, one of the backup goalkeepers of the women. They came together up in a well, I'm not here to gossip about anybody's relationship. Apparently, they have broken up, and he's been having a little bit of a tough time and whatever. But he's a quality player. He's going to come back. I have no doubt about that. And also the PSG midfield, of course, at the moment, it's very difficult midfield to get into. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I have my full trust in him too. So I think he's gonna do great things.
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up there. It was a very, very nice chat. We're also conscious of the fact that you want to watch the women's team, so we'll wrap it up there. So I'd like to thank you for your time, Mikko. We did record last week, but unfortunately I deleted the video that was supposed to go out. So my apologies for re-recording. I had to put it on cameras. But thank you so much for this chat, and Louis is also available for the chat. Louis, bro, any last thoughts or words for Mikko?
For me, just all the best to PSG women against Madrid. We beat them last season on our way to winning the Women's Champions League, so I'm sure PSG can get some type of result against them. And Mikko, thanks for always availing yourself for our show. And also, I think people should also check out Mikko's show as well, where he
Yeah.
speaks about more in depth about PSG and what goes on around the club as well. So again, thanks, Mikko.
The show is a
You're
little bit
great
on a
channel.
hiatus. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, guys. And the show is a little bit on a hiatus at the moment. I actually really kind of like stopped doing it pretty much at the same time as things started to go really well. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was, but it was. There were reasons why. One of them was that I left Twitter, which it's difficult to follow the ins and outs to that detail without being there, but I just didn't want to be there anymore. So I haven't been doing that show that much, so that's why it was extra special to be here talking a little bit about football with you guys. It's always a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Mikko.
Wrap it up there. Peace.
Bitch, I be leaning on Taylor. Bitch, I be leaning on Taylor. It's all. Bitch, I be leaning on Taylor. Bitch, I be, yeah. Bitch, I be leaning on Taylor.